Okay, let's do this. Live service games like Fortnite 2, Live service games like Fortnite, Destiny 2, GTA Online, and Apex Legends have been both the bane of gamers' existence and their saving grace these past 10 years. And yes, I said 10 years. On one hand, without live service games, we wouldn't have had a series of reliable content since 2015, but on the other hand, it's given big game developers the excuse that they could just pump out mediocre content and their fan bases will somehow be satisfied with that. Of course, this wouldn't be a Cat VR video, a channel dedicated to positivity in the most grim of circumstances, without looking at both sides of this argument. So I'd like to go over both the good and bad things each of these live service games have brought to the table in an effort to put together a formula, the good things we want in live service games that we can look at from here on out. I'm mostly going to be talking about some games I have a lot of personal experience playing, as I feel it would be disingenuous to sit here and just talk about a bunch of games I've never even put a finger on. The few that I haven't played, but I'm still going to list, are ones that are pretty popular, and I think everybody knows about some of the main problems with them, and they've made headlines across the gaming community for one thing or another. Now, before I get all the comments talking about how I love to be a contrarian and I'm only here because some live service game update came out and it's really ground my gears or something like that, I just want to make it clear that I'm actually very interested in this subject and I've done a lot of research in my own time. I'm not trying to play to the algorithm here, okay? Lord knows if I was, I'd be getting 14K views like I did on my Starfield video on every video. But all it takes is one glance at my YouTube library here to see that's not the case. I believe that's the only video you could, but still wrongly, claim that I was being a contrarian for, as I was specifically talking about how and why Starfield was hated with my personal experience with the subject. But if you look at any of my other videos, I believe you'd find that they are only what I'm wanting to make at any given time. This isn't some spur of the moment video that I just decided to make because of some controversial live service update. I've been sitting on this one for a little while. Alright, tangent over, let's talk about some games. Star Wars Battlefront 2, 2017. Now before you ask, I wish I was talking about Classic. I will have to make a video on that game at some point because of how it was the pinnacle of gaming in my friend group. I don't know a single person with a bad opinion on it. The newer Star Wars Battlefront 2, however. Let's start with the bad. Loot crates? Whenever someone mentions loot crates or microtransactions, this game is the one they point at. It's like the primary source of complaint. In case you don't know what the heck that is, it's basically this. You pay real money for little or fake money in the game. You earn some of this money just by playing already, at least with most games, but not nearly as much as you would if you just paid for it outright. You can use that money, but not to directly upgrade your stuff. You basically have to spin a wheel to get between like 2 and 6 little cards. Usually these are purely cosmetic items, but some games host a pay-to-win model where you can pay for upgrades in the game with real money to have better gear than other players. This is equivalent to going to a paintball game with you and your other 12-year-old buddies, and you have no experience, but then a big burly adult team shows up to play against you, each having served in the military for 9 years, and they brought all of their own paintball equipment. The pay-to-win model is obviously a big point of contention. Most players want the only curve to overcome to be the skill curve, so that no matter who you are or how much money you have, you just have to practice to get better. Loot crates usually give you little things that don't do anything but make your character look a little bit different. Usually. So, objectively, it's not worth forking over the cash, but I suppose if you want to spend your life savings on Fortnite skins, who am I to stop you? Fortnite has this problem as well, but has a decent battle pass system, which I'll touch on in a minute. The microtransactions have since been removed from Star Wars Battlefront 2, and is still left a pretty bad taste in everyone's mouth. Poor servers. Half the time when I mention poor servers or bad connection, I think it's probably got a lot to do with me living in the middle of nowhere, as I've really never had a good internet connection for as long as I've been alive, but I have some pretty distinct memories of lagging and things not working, especially in Star Wars Battlefront 2 during multiplayer with friends of mine. One of my friends specifically had a problem when Electronic Arts switched some account stuff around and he wasn't able to access his account and all the things he earned in game, therefore couldn't play multiplayer with me, which is a shame because it was one of the main things we were playing together. I think he's got that fixed now. Shout out Indrat at EA Customer Service, you're a beast. Single player campaign. When I first played the single player campaign, I didn't really think that it was bad or anything, but I have a pretty low bar when it comes to campaigns. If it keeps my attention and I don't like go play a different game for a few months and then come back, I think it's decent. The sequel bits. Along with the most recent terrible Star Wars movies of late, the criticism that came out and followed them along with that era was added to the game. I'm one of the sequel haters, I'll be first to admit. I know I'm usually a positive guy on this channel, but there's some very few redeeming qualities about the sequels. I'm a writer in my spare time, and I care a lot about the visual medium, and I just found that there were too many inconsistencies. I don't really even consider the sequels canon at all, so all of the criticism that comes with those just got tacked onto the game because the game added the sequels. The good stuff. The game has had a series of updates over the years with, in my opinion, the bad only consisting of sequel trilogy content and the good consisting of the Clone Wars era stuff. Playing as battle droids and all that just scratches a little special itch in my brain, so I don't know what I'm doing here. Space battles. Flying starfighters and other ships was something that most players wanted to bring back from the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, and I'm glad to see that it did come back. I personally haven't found that playing the starfighter modes in the new Star Wars Battlefront 2 are a lot of fun, especially in comparison to Star Wars Battlefront 2 Classic. Like, I don't think it has the same charm. Let's talk about Luke for a second. This is what I mean when I care about story and stuff. Of course, it's been a while since I played the campaign for this game, but I specifically remember the portrayal of Luke in the campaign being much closer to his actual character, not a whiny defeatist until he suddenly doesn't need to be. But he's a fully developed adult with a clear mission, which feels nice to have. I keep noticing the trend more and more where a character will have gone through their character arc and be at the end of it. Then a sequel or some other property makes all of the lessons they had learned suddenly vacate their mind like a bad taco, just so that the new studio can make them relearn a lesson for their movie, game, or book. It's frustrating because the character already went through that, and it's like the central part of who they are, so why would that suddenly disappear? Like, why would Wreck-It Ralph?
Y'all ever seen Wreck-It Ralph? Yeah.
Suddenly get super insecure of who he is and his friendships when he spent the whole first movie realizing he didn't need to try to be a hero, and he was already a hero, and he could just make real friends. People just didn't recognize him for who he was yet. Like, why would Batman just suddenly up and start killing people when the whole point of his character is that he believes killing is wrong and actively works not to do that in every other property except Zack Snyder's? It's terrible. And then of course, lastly, there's Luke. I mean, why would he hate his nephew for being tempted to the dark side and try to kill him instead of understanding what he's going through and become sympathetic? Luke understands what it means to be a Jedi, so he should teach him how to work through the dark side problem just as he had to learn on his own. Mark Hamill himself, who played Luke for most of his life now, specifically had a problem with how Luke was portrayed, and no one ever freaking listened to him. Anyways, sorry, rant over. The guns feel great in this game. Most of the abilities and classes are pretty good. They're a pretty good upgrade from the original. I'm not saying that the classic version had bad classes or weapons, or in fact the opposite, but I found that 2017 kept a lot of the things that made the game great, as well as improving on the right things. As an extension to this, obviously, sound design and visual design are pretty good. I would say 7 or 8 out of 10. One of my favorite desktop wallpapers is a looping video of the rain falling on the Camino map. So that tells you, if anything, the graphical fidelity is up there to the point that it's something I'd want on my screen if anybody happens to run in and take a look at my computer. Mods. Obviously, the mods aren't something that came with the game, so it's not really something I should be ranking as if it does, but most of the mods I've seen for this game have to do with wanting a specific skin or appearance of the characters based on movies or TV shows that have spin-off, of the original movies, and I think it's pretty cool what we've been able to accomplish. Moving on. Fortnite. Fortnite needs no introduction, he says as he introduces it. It's been in the cultural zeitgeist since it was released, from being the PUBG clone to being the next greatest digital concert venue apart from those 360 VR cameras. The game, if you've ever played it or seen it played, usually takes the form as a battle royale, a game mode where players compete to be the last player or team alive as the storm, a circular area, closes in around them, making the battlefield shrink and making it harder to hide. It's given way to memes, birthed new terms, and made its way out of celebrities' mouths. Let's start with the bad, because I always like to. I personally find the art direction in Fortnite a little strange, and I think the game itself leans a little bit too far into being hypocritical with its messaging. For example, it aims to be family-friendly, with most of its audience being younger children, and yet it incorporates characters from R-rated movies and TV shows into the skin roster for the sake of microtransactions from older people who can definitely pay for them, yet their popularity is noticed by these younger audiences, and it'll drive this younger audience to go watch these R-rated movies and TV shows, which isn't good for them. They're specifically rated not to do that. I think the PR team for Fortnite doesn't really know what is their audience really. So here's the good. I think Fortnite has everybody beat in having new and interesting ideas every chapter. On one hand, this seems predatory, especially because of children being the main audience, like I just mentioned. But Fortnite has developers that listen to their community for the most part, which is few and far between right now. Like, for example, one of these last updates, they said, hey, the running speed was nerfed, it's way too slow, and everybody feels like a turtle. And they said, all right, we got you. So Fortnite has been the center, where almost everything you can think of has been inserted into this game. A lot of people would say that this is a blessing and a curse. because a lot of people who want to escape into video games don't want to be reminded about certain pain points in the real world. But I found that Fortnite typically brings the enjoyable things from life into itself to be enjoyed again with an online community. It's essentially become the metaverse, kind of in the way that Mark Zuckerberg intended with his Meta Horizons app that flopped completely. Fortnite is the main hub of the gaming community right now. It almost primarily revolves around the integration of culture and new game modes. Due to its accessibility and its light tone, it's become unanimous for how to do a live service game mostly right. Let's talk about Destiny 2, huh? According to The Gamer, Destiny 2 is the #1 top live service game, becoming free to play after Bungie gained some distance from Activision, and currently has become closer to what was originally envisioned for the series, a persistent multiplayer experience that has been built upon with continual updates, major story expansions, and newly added multiplayer content. I've only spent a limited amount of time playing Destiny 2, mostly with friends. What I did play, I really enjoyed. I spoke to my friend Jack, and he told me about some of the things he enjoyed and he didn't enjoy from playing Destiny 2 over 6 years. Jack has a lot more negative things to say than positive, claiming the game has fallen off since after the Witch Queen expansion. He says, they've burned a staggering amount of bridges with their players that I don't really see the new expansion being profitable. They need to do a hard reset with the third game to get me back into it. It's pretty dire. It's looking like Sony will be taking complete control of Bungie because they've not been profitable since the acquisition. The board at Bungie is half Sony executives and half Bungie, but if the next financial quarter does not turn a profit, then Sony takes control. The content and gameplay loop is extremely fun and as strong as ever, but the live service aspects have been eating at the game like a cancer since it was introduced, and the game has finally caved to it as a whole. Shooting Hive doesn't feel fun when you've been grinding the same mission for 3 hours for one of 8 pieces needed to raise your power level by 1 point, and they haven't released a PvP map in like 6 years. New guns and powers will break PvP, and it takes months for them to adjust it. I'd say that's a lot of bad stuff. Personally, I had a lot of fun playing Destiny 2 with the content that piqued my interest. I was really intrigued by some of the weapons, and I spent a lot of time upgrading them and customizing my Guardian how I wanted to. I jumped back in for a few updates like the Witch Queen and played through some of those stories with Jack, but ultimately I didn't find it fun enough to play it daily or even weekly. Maybe that's just because I didn't give it a good enough chance. Some of the game mechanics are very, very fun. Sparrow racing particularly intrigued me, as well as the bow, and I think it's called Surge mechanics. It's the thing where you get shocked by an enemy and it makes it so that your ammo never runs out for a short period of time. Any game that has bows in it is instantly fun for me. Far Cry, Destiny, Blade and Sorcery. I personally found the game to be fun on some notes, but found that without paying for grand new DLCs, I ran out of fun things to do. So I'd say bad equals strays from original draw, alienating the audience, repetitive gameplay loops with too little return, infrequent updates, unbalanced weapons. And I'd say the good stuff is great art design, good voice acting, and intriguing storytelling. I was really drawn to the art in this game. All right, let's hit GTA Online, okay? Bad. Again, microtransactions are the biggest contender for the bad. In GTA Online particularly, we have the shark card epidemic, GTA Plus, and all of the re-releases before that. Like Skyrim, GTA 5 was released a good many times on different consoles, and Rockstar was able to just rake in money from it. Personally, if I was in their shoes, I couldn't be able to blame them. The game is only second at being the most purchased game ever at 190 million sales. I'm not here to sit and defend every single big game studio, like all my comments on the Starfield video suggest. But I do like remembering that these are real people with their own interest in mind, first of all. You know, every company needs a good balance between artists and business-minded people who can make solid decisions on how to keep the company afloat, despite how artists prefer to keep the product's integrity intact first. Whether we like it or not, those two forces are always at war with each other in every game developer, and will be to the end of time. This is likely why we don't have an Alien Isolation 2, which is something I wish I'd added onto my video, but the whole video is somewhere up here. GTA Plus is another big thing. They're releasing more car garages, like car garages that have multiple levels, and it's like, I don't need that. I'll just buy a bunch of different properties that'll actually make me money and put my cars in those places. I don't need to store them all in the same 5-story garage that sits over on Vinewood. I don't need that. I don't need GTA Plus. But here's the good. Some of my personal favorite things about GTA Online are as follows. A lot of the processes through grinding is something I can do while listening to books, music, or podcasts, and I really enjoy a few games that'll let me do that, where I can busy my hands and not have to pay a bunch of attention to the story. It really distracts me from whatever I'm listening to. If I was sponsored by Audible, this is where I would talk about it. Hint, hint. There's a great map to just mess around with, and there's a lot of interactive things that Rockstar really put work into, and you can really tell. There's some genuinely fun game modes that don't require going through main story beats or waiting a long time that I can just jump into with friends. On this note, I want to say how much GTA Online is hated on for like being futuristic and having like futuristic vehicles and all that junk. But one of the best things about GTA Online has to be the different game modes and jobs that you can do, which is almost exactly what Fortnite's being praised for. Fortnite, Roblox, VR Chat, and GTA Online all have these separate game modes you can just jump into and play a low-quality version of Squid Game or Among Us or something like that. I think this is great. I think this is exactly what the metaverse should have been in the first place. A very popular game where a lot of people jump in and play a bunch of different game modes in a lobby together, or you can just sit and talk with your friends in a lobby and do whatever the hell you want to do. Anyway, back to the task at hand. The quality of GTA 5 hasn't really gone down that much. I see a lot of people say that it's outdated and terrible, but for 2013, and honestly a lot of games that are coming out more recently, I think the graphics hold up. I think the issues that I personally see are due to me watching speedrunners or people trying to break the game on purpose. I enjoy those little tidbits of information, like knowing all of the background stuff about a game, how to break it, so that's what I see. But I don't think that makes the game any worse. I think that you really have to be looking for those things to see them in the first place. Apex Legends. I have a good bit to say about Apex. It was my main game for a good portion of 5 years. Bad, loot crates again. It's kind of mediocre battle pass. I said that I would talk about the battle pass for a minute. Essentially, Fortnite has a decent battle pass system that you get more than your money's worth, but I found that in Apex, you can spend a bunch of money, but if you're not going to end up playing 24/7 for 2 weeks, you're not going to get your money's worth at all. For those who don't know, battle passes, basically you pay a certain amount depending on the game, and you unlock more things as you play the game than you would if you were not paying and playing the game. Of course, the reasoning behind this is that the game is free to play and they need money to pay their developers to come from somewhere. Makes sense. I've just found that Fortnite has a way better value despite the fact that I genuinely enjoy Apex a lot more than I do Fortnite. Okay, so I'm kind of wrong here. Apex isn't that bad. When I had first started playing Apex, I found that it wasn't really worth the money. But after looking into it some more this week and being gone from the game for a while, it seems that the Battle Pass has either gotten better or I just didn't understand it. You really only need to pay for the Battle Pass maybe once, because if you're playing consistently, you can get enough points through playing and using the Battle Pass to pay for the next one with the in-game currency. The only problem is if you have a busy home life and a busy work life, you're not going to really have the amount of time that you need to fulfill that battle pass and get the in-game currency that you need for that. So plus overall, I found that the cosmetic items you get through Apex just aren't as cool as like the Fortnite ones are. The Fortnite ones kind of encompass a lot, but I found that the Apex ones are just a lot of like sprays and just weird stuff that I personally wasn't into very much. Servers. This is a big meme. Servers are a bit dodgy on Apex, and I'm not sure why. I've heard that there's like one server, which is bad. That makes the servers crash every time there's a big update. Like I said, it's possible that I've had bad internet, but with the amount of memes and stuff I've seen, you know, streamers talking about how the updates crash the servers and all that, I don't think it's just me. The skill curve. Apex is a very, very difficult game to play, and I'm not surprised that it's got less players than Fortnite, despite how similar their business models are. You really got to put in hours to be good at this game. It's really frustrating. When you've spent every night you've been at home for the past 6 months trying to get good at a game, only for people whose job is to play the game just to smash you in the first 15 minutes, it makes you want to end it all in Minecraft. Obviously, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that it's fine to have competitive games that are harder. Like, you don't see me saying that it's Super Smash Bros. Fault that I suck at it. It's just a large barrier to entry, and it makes me wish that there was more to the training mode. P.S. I wrote this before the training mode happened. That's how long I've been working on this video. Weapon balancing. It's really been a while since I've been deep in the meta on this game about which guns are the best and which abilities kick ass. But it's been a pretty big issue in the past to have weapons that completely negate other ones and powers that are essentially game killers. So balancing is a big deal. The good. The R301. Just kidding. Although the sound design and art design for this game are really good. I found some inconsistencies with their public relations art design. Like, they'll have some commission trailer for the game and it'll look really good, but then they'll do a different trailer for Tales of the Outlands or whatever the hell it's called, and they'll just be like still images with voice actors talking over it. Like, I think they should keep the medium consistent or don't do it at all. That's what I think. Movement and gameplay. Apex pulled a lot straight out of Titanfall, which is arguably the best decision ever made. Sliding, shooting, throwing, and using tactical and ultimate powers are the best in any game I've played in a long time. The characters. The legends are interesting. They don't really lose my interest despite the Wildlands tales or whatever with the comic books, but I still find the base legends to be intriguing and fun. I'm speaking as someone who hasn't really had time to play since Vantage or whatever she's called, the girl with the bat was added. I can't speak to whatever poor decisions have been made with new Legends. The game mode. The usual game mode is Battle Royale with very interesting and dynamic maps. Most recently, there have been shorter game modes like Gun Game, and Arenas was recently added to the game with a 6-player mode where 2 teams play to win 3 rounds. It makes it easier to practice without putting a whole hour into a Battle Royale match. All right, next are the games that I don't really know enough about to talk about, maybe just a sentence here or there. So Call of Duty Warzone 2. I played the first Warzone and I enjoyed it, but I felt that the weapon meta was a little too much for me to dig into, so I kind of just stayed on the outside of it for a long time. I still haven't played the second one. Rocket League. I played a little bit of Rocket League, but it wasn't really my thing. I understand how it can be for some people, and like I said, I know nothing about this game, so I can't comment on the pros and cons. Fall Guys. I played Fall Guys maybe once, but every one of my friends that have played it, I heard good things from. No Man's Sky. The main thing I know about No Man's Sky was that it was unfinished and not really great when it was released. Similar to how Cyberpunk is, where it's better now, but it was terrible, and it didn't live up to any of its promises on release. With this note, I'd like to say that I don't really consider games like Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky to be live service games like a lot of people do. I think you need monthly updates like every 3 months to be considered a real live service game. I think that DLC releases like Phantom Liberty don't really count as that, and the studios that want to consider their game a live service game are really just making a AAA game and releasing a bunch of patch updates, and they really need a strict reality check. I would not consider Doom Eternal to be a live service game just because there was DLC. You know, that game came out finished. Cyberpunk didn't, and neither did No Man's Sky, but they're not live service games. League of Legends. Never played it. Genshin Impact. I haven't played Genshin Impact either. I played a little bit of, what's it called? Honkai Star Rail. Don't ask me why. I was just a little bit interested, so I tried it out. The art was pretty good. I felt like it was refreshing to have a new game with turn-based combat. I know that the game isn't Genshin Impact, and there's a lot of differences, but from a normie point of view, it just seemed like kind of the same thing, so I'm kind of grouping Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact together here. Sea of Thieves. I played a little bit of Sea of Thieves, not really enough to say anything worthwhile about it. My first impressions were that the controls were a little bit wonky and not really refined, and the art style threw me off. Playing with friends seems to be the best part of this game, and I think I could get into it if I get past my first impressions and try it again with friends who are patient with me. All right, so let's just list out what we want then. All right, seems like we really want good communication with the studio to be the first main thing. If the game studio really wants to hear what the audience has to say and has a frequent newsletter or patch notes, most of these issues can be spoken about, and the audience will feel less and less ostracized for their opinions. Number 2. We want good servers for multiplayer, nothing that's going to crash and burn after an influx of new players to a new update. Number 3, we want good quality updates and not just a new cosmetic pack every 3 months. Apex. When the game is over, end the game and come up with a new thing. Publish that next year. Don't keep trying to put out mediocre updates every 5 minutes. We don't want 2 genres mashed together. Okay, we want something original with unique spins on something, or a brand new idea. Number 4, we want to upgrade our gear and cosmetics through playing the game and not just buying them. At least most of us do. If we do have a battle pass, it should be full of well-balanced items that both make us feel like we're getting our money's worth, but doesn't give us a severe advantage over other players. We don't want a bunch of digital junk. We already have enough regular junk. When a game has used up all of its material, we don't want you to just keep making up material and bastardizing a game we love. I guess 5 and 3 part B are the same thing. 6. If your game has a story, then take the time. Write it properly with good ideas. Don't just jump on a new trend to try to be relevant. Give us something with a unique world and unique characters that doesn't just speak to whatever's happening in our decade. Give us new and interesting points of view. Number 7, we want good sound and visual design. I think this is a given, but I ought to put it on this list anyway. Number 8, I know most of us want a good community, someplace that we can talk with other players and maybe even petition for things to be included in the game. I obviously don't think the game needs to follow every one of these petitions and become an everything in one game, which it's bound to do if game devs listen to every single bit of feedback and doesn't have a good understanding of the game's identity or what it needs to remain as. But I also think that the community should be a little more positive than negative. I think we have far too much complaining about games, even games that are good and original. So there's my list. Of course, it's speculation for me to say what I think the entire community wants out of games, especially live service games, but I think it's probably a good interpretation, at least of what I want. It's also not entirely realistic to expect this of every studio and game, especially since I tend to lean toward wanting a game that does everything that I want instead of multiple games that I can switch between. That's a personal problem of mine. I want every game I play to be the everything in one, the best game that it could possibly be. And that's unrealistic to expect. Who knows? Maybe eventually we'll get a killer metaverse game where you can play every game in one. And it's a good time, and we'll never have to close a game and open a different one to play with friends. But until then, let me know in the comments if you guys want something other than what I put on this list for live service games, or if you agree with what I said and you want some more of the same. Also, look at this, guys. I have a green screen now. I have a better camera. I'm really upping my game. Talking about things I want to talk about and not just whatever the algorithm wants me to talk about. I'm having a good time and I want you along for the ride. So don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see y'all soon with another one. Also, I've been setting up Twitch some more. Follow me over there and you can see me whenever I go live. See ya.